Hey, it's Kari Jo.
Hey, it's Anna. Join us as we learn new things, challenge our assumptions, and grow as people. Welcome to the Heretical Hippies podcast.
In this season, we are going to explore the intersection of curiosity and wonder, and hopefully develop some fresh ways to see the world and ourselves. So come along for the ride, or don't. Either way, we're going to hit record.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Heretical Hippies podcast. Today, Anna and Kari Jo are going to be talking about tattoos.
Yeah,
What fun
I'm
subject.
very excited about this.
Yeah. Gosh, Kari Jo and I both have a handful of them. So what we're going to do is just kind of go through what we chose to get and different information about it, and then kind of where we're at now with them. So, Kari Jo, why don't you tell us about your tattoos?
All right. First of all, I will say, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably care enough to know what they look like. Maybe not. Either way. I have shared a picture of my tattoos on my Instagram, Heretical Hippie. That's my personal Instagram, just so that's clear. But yeah, so if you're curious as to what these things actually look like, you can check it out there. So I'm going to share mine in chronological order. The first one I got was actually while we were still serving as missionaries in Nigeria, but it was on our home assignment, so that year gap between our terms. And I got a bird that is holding a branch, like a myrrh branch, like what is it? MYRRH? I don't know. That's that crazy thing, like in the Bible, myrrh.
Right.
So I can't even spell it. I don't know. And the bird is this very specific bird that was always in our yard in Nigeria. And it has a blue, let me look at my tattoo. It has a blue belly, and it has like a red circle of feathers where its ear hole is. And it's just the cutest thing. It's like the size of a sparrow. And I loved those birds. I called them Bluey, very original, very creative on my part. And I always felt like God would communicate with me through birds. And so that was part of the reasoning for the bird. And it was just cute. I liked it. And I also wanted to kind of commemorate our years in Nigeria, just, as like a reminder, or, just something to hold on to from that time. And the reason that I go ahead.
Did myrrh grow in Nigeria?
Did what?
Myrrh, the plant.
No.
Okay.
So I was going to say the reason I got the myrrh branch was because it was right after you and I were in the mountains for Revelation Wellness and getting certified as these Christian fitness instructors. And so I was all hyped up and pumped about like sharing the gospel through that. And I looked up myrrh, and it was used in anointing. And so I felt like I was anointed to share the gospel through that conduit, I guess. So that was my very first one. That was in 2014, I believe.
Where is it?
It's on my stomach. Yeah. I was so nervous too, because I didn't know what it was going to feel like or anything. And come to find out, because I've gotten several more, this guy was so heavy-handed. Like, it hurt so bad. I mean, if anybody has several tattoos, you'll understand what I mean by heavy-handed. He didn't have a light touch with the needle. Like, he was really like, get it in there. This is not coming out. This is not fading. And I got to say, it has not faded. It still looks amazing, partly because it doesn't get a lot of sun. And also, like, the placement was strategic because you were not technically allowed to have visible tattoos while you were serving as a missionary in Nigeria. Nigeria specific. Other countries, it was a different policy. But so that was the reason for on the stomach for that one. Okay, and then the second one, I got in, I think it was 2016. It was actually, this is so funny. So we were in the middle of our second term in Nigeria, and I had gone through this really terrible pinched nerve thing in my neck. It took me out for about 6 months. I couldn't teach classes. I could barely get out of bed the first 3 months. It was really bad. And so I was like, all right, I got to find some way to move my body that's not going to be high impact or really demanding, but is still beneficial and useful to me. And so I just started yoga. I think I like did some videos on YouTube or something. And because I knew about it, because they also would be at the same retreat center. For our listeners that don't know, Revwell and Holy Yoga would share the space at the retreat that Anna and I were at. And so I knew of them. And so I gave it a try and I was like, oh, this is amazing. And I loved it. And then I decided I have to get certified because I want to be able to offer this mode of mobility as well with the fitness. And so I went back to the States in the middle of our term and I went through the retreat. And then after the retreat, I got this tattoo and it's on my outer right thigh. And so, going through this terrible ordeal with the pinched nerve, I had spent a lot of time just reading the Bible and praying and coming across various quotes that people would share, and it would just really resonate with me. And one of these was a quote by Charles Spurgeon, and it says, "I've learned to kiss the waves that toss me up against the rock of ages." And like, I kid you not, I'm laying in bed with this whole ordeal, and I literally had like a vision of something in my head, like not like right in front of me, but like in my brain, an imaginative vision of a representation of that quote. And so I just quick like sketched it down and like on whatever scrap piece of paper was there. We were just talking about that, how disorganized my notes and everything are. And so I just quick like sketched it out. And then again, months later, I was back in the States and I was like, I knew like I wanted to get that tattooed on my body. And so I did. I made an appointment with a guy that my friend had gone to and she loved him and she sat there with me. It was like a really long session. But anyway, the picture of it is, I have to like double check. So the top part is the mountain and then the sun is peeking up behind it. And then, so that kind of makes a triangle. And the bottom is like an upside down triangle of waves with the moon behind the triangle. And then a bunch of, oh no, that's it. Okay. Yeah. I had to like drop my pants and look to be sure. I'm glad this isn't a video podcast. So anyway, that was my second one, and it's pretty big too. Like it takes up a decent space of my thigh. The last three are not going to take up too much time. So Anna, just interrupt me with any questions you might have.
Yeah.
Okay, so my third one was...
Oh, I can also say I've never seen any, other than like mildly seeing your forearm. I don't think you had any tattoos the last time I saw you.
No, I didn't.
Okay. Yeah.
I was
So I haven't seen any of
fresh
these.
skin back then.
Yeah.
Okay, so the third one, it's on my ankle, and I got it in 2018 when our family was in Thailand. So we had left the field, we were coming home, and we wanted to be intentional about doing kind of re-entry counseling for us because the culture shock is insane and there's just a lot to process. And so we spent about a month in Thailand, 3 of those weeks doing counseling. And 1 week was just like for fun. And so anyway, while we're there, Steven, he had been wanting a tattoo for a while on his forearm. And obviously, that wasn't an option because we were still in Nigeria, but we knew we were coming back. And so he's like, I really want to get a tattoo. And so he had already known what he wanted. He'd been thinking about this forever, like looking at pictures on Instagram and stuff, getting ideas. And so he found a place to book a tattoo. And I was like, ooh, I want one. I don't want to miss out on this. And I always tell people, if you ask me at any given moment, I have probably 3 or 4 ideas for a tattoo that I want. And he was like, okay, like, what you want? And I was like, no, but I can figure it out. And so like 30 minutes later, I was like, okay, I know what I want. And so it's 3 elephants, which represent my 3 boys. And of course, elephants are like a huge part of Thai culture. And so I just wanted it to be representative of where I was at in that phase of life. And then also to just like honor my kids in a non-specific way. Like I don't want their names on me or anything, but like I still wanted to like hold them dear to me somehow in my body art. So it's 3 elephants and it's a single line and it's all connected. And I love that. I think that's really cool. I don't know what it represents, actually. I haven't thought a ton about that, but I do somehow believe that the single line connectedness means something deeper than I'm aware of right now.
Mm.
I don't know why, how to articulate that, but I think it does. Yeah, so that's my third one. Fourth one is my, I guess, half sleeve. I don't know. It's like my full forearm and it goes like up past my elbow a little bit. It's just flowers. Just like, I like the flowers. I like the style. I think it's pretty. And there's no meaning to it. It's just like it's aesthetic, completely aesthetic for me. But if you're looking at the pictures, you'll see there's like a solid band that is nothing. It's just my skin. And it kind of separates the tattoo into two parts. And I gotta tell you, this is so funny. So, like, shortly after you get a tattoo, it's like really fresh. It's very vibrant. It like really stands out to people when they see it because it's so sharp. And people would ask me constantly, "Oh, what does that empty space mean?" Thinking, like nothing. Like it doesn't mean anything. It's just negative space. So many people ask me that, and so I would joke about it with my when I'd come home and say, "Oh my gosh, so many people ask about that stupid empty space." And I came up with this running joke of next time somebody asks me that, I'm just going to put my middle finger on that empty space and then they'll figure out that it doesn't mean anything. Like, just stop asking me that. No, but anyway, like we still joke about that as a family.
People love to ask, especially
Yeah.
people that don't have tattoos.
Right.
Love to ask what they mean, you know?
Yeah. I actually have a friend at a church that we used to attend in Michigan. He has a lot of tattoos. And he would say a couple things about tattoos. He's like, I want to have at least one tattoo that I regret getting. And then also he hated it when people would ask, well, what does that mean? What's the meaning of that? And he would say, like, don't be such a dick. It doesn't have to mean anything. I just like it. Like, who cares? It doesn't have to have a greater meaning.
Right.
So that's definitely my forearm tattoo. It doesn't have a greater meaning. It's just pretty. And then my last one, I got that a couple years ago. Clay went to Ireland with his dive team to do a couple meets there, and then just to train at this really cool facility. And I went with him. And so since we were there, I was like, oh, I want to get like a little shamrock. And so I actually kind of put that within my forearm tattoo. So it kind of just blends it. I mean, you can tell it's different style, it's different thickness and all that. Like if you were really scrutinizing, you would know it's different, but it just kind of blends in. Because I didn't want like just a tiny tattoo somewhere. I just wanted it to kind of all blend together. And that was just because we were in Ireland. I wanted to get it. I'm part Irish, so I thought this is a cool way to commemorate that. Yeah. And I was going to say something else about that, but now I can't remember. But anyway, those are my 5. I don't have a ton. Those are the ones I have. And
does anybody else in your family have tattoos, like your husband or kids?
Yes, Steven does. He has 2. He has an ichthus fish. Did I say that right? I think so. The Jesus fish on a shoulder. He got that in college. And then he has his forearm tattoo, which is like a map of the world. And then there's like a cross kind of in the center of it. It's small in comparison. And then like it radiates out like to the nations. Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. My kids don't have tattoos yet. I mean, I wouldn't like when they're adults, like I don't care. They can get whatever they want. I would probably want to go with them.
Right.
But yeah, they don't have any yet.
Speaking of kids, I have to share this couple stories. So I have 5 kids, and one of them is a Marine. And before he was a Marine, he called me when I was out of town. I was out of state visiting family, and he called me and he was like, hey, by the way, I have a friend who just got a tattoo. And my son was 17 at the time. And he was like, he wants to know how to take care of it. I'm like, well, if he got a tattoo from a real tattoo artist, then your friend should have already asked that question to him. And he's like, yeah, I guess he just forgot some of the details. And I was like, well, you do this, this, and this. And I was like, Graylin, did you get a tattoo? And he was like, no. I was like, you're lying to me. And he's like, no, I'm not. I'm like, I gotta let you go. I'll talk to you later. So, I don't know, hours later, before I went to sleep, I got a text. Hey, Mama, I did get a tattoo. And I'm like, how the heck did you get a tattoo? You're 17 years old, you know? Because he kept asking me for like 2 years before this. when I turn 18, when I turn 18, because he's just been dying to get tattoos. And I kept telling him, like, you're going to have to wait until you're 18 because I'm not giving you permission before that,
Yeah.
Well, he just found a tattoo artist that would do it for him. And I mean, it turned out good. It's not terrible tattoo. I don't think he's going to regret it too much when he's 30,
Yeah.
but it's still like, he's that kid, And so anyway, he's a Marine now, like no surprise there. And he's just like constantly pushing the boundaries of life and everything he does. And, but anyway, he was home for the holidays, and the day before he left, he gets home that night. And I was like, you've been gone all day. Where have you been? He's like, he has this enormous forearm tattoo.
Whoa.
And I was like, what is going on? It's kind of shocking. Like, people that know us are like, why are you freaking out? Like, you literally, me and my husband have so many tattoos. And I'm like, I don't know why, but when it's your kid and they've altered their body, especially when they're young, and it's such a visible place,
Yeah.
you're just like, oh, please let it be good. Please let it be good.
Is it good? Do you like it?
It is. It's a good tattoo. And it fits what he wants to do. He wants to get a sleeve and, all that jazz. But yeah, I mean, I've warmed up to the idea, and it makes sense what he got. I actually am kind of proud of him for choosing something with some meaning. But yeah, my own personal tattoos. I got my first one. I was 18. A good friend of mine paid. I grew up with a friend through junior high school kind of time period that ended up becoming a tattoo artist, and he had his own shop and everything, and where I grew up. And so, we had a mutual friend that knew I wanted to get a tattoo when I turned 18, and so she paid for my first tattoo. And so we went to my friend's place. His name's Dave, and Dave did tattoos on my husband too. So, but I didn't know my husband at that time. And actually, getting our tattoos at a similar place was one of the things that we connected on and that we reconnected on. Like, it was a key factor in, we had lost touch with one another. This is pre-internet. And yeah, it was a key factor in getting us back together. So that was
cool.
kind of neat. Yeah, so Dave became someone, he also did our wedding tattoos, which was like my second tattoo. One of the things I realized about my history with tattoos is that I prefer to get tattoos from people I know, people that I actually care about, not just know. And so all of mine are done by people that I have been and still are friends with, except for one. Only one I didn't. It was a stranger, but she was female, which was also important to me at the time. So anyway, so my first tattoo was a small dove with a cross in the middle. It's really tiny, and it's on the side of my heel. Like, I was looking for a place that was so out of the way,
Yeah,
that I didn't want to regret my first tattoo,
That's pretty wise, actually, at 18. That's very forward thinking.
Yeah, I was like, I just want to try this out and see how it feels. And so I had rededicated my life to the Lord at 17. And so it just made sense. So it's this tiny little dove with the rays coming out behind it, with a little purple cross right in the middle of its chest. And I still have it to this day. I've never covered it up. And I kind of like the story that goes along with it and what it reminds me of when I look at it.
Yeah,
so
that's awesome.
My second tattoo was my wedding tattoo. And my husband and I went back to Dave, and we had originally thought about getting a small flame tattooed on our chest to represent our union. And we decided to do a small flame on our finger instead, just in the same place you would put a wedding ring. And yeah, Dave did both of ours, and we have pictures of that day and everything. It was really fun. I was 19 and Ricky was 21, I think, at the time.
Has it aged well? I've heard
20?
the hand stuff doesn't age very well.
Not really, but I mean, we can still tell what it is. Obviously, we don't care.
Right. No, of course. I was just like wondering about logistics of a hand tattoo, because there are things I would love to get, but
yeah, no, they don't age well on the hand for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've gotten it touched up before and filled in with color before again because it has a little bit of blue in the center, and um it's still faded again. So it's just, it's just you exfoliate so much on your
Right.
hands. So third tattoo was after I'd had all my kids. So it'd
Oh, I
been
love
quite a
this
while.
one.
Actually, no, that's not one. Third one was before I had all my kids. It was after I had my first kid. We lived at a community up in Chicago called Jesus People, and I met someone up there who did tattoos on the side, just like in their room, not at a shop.
Oh my
And
gosh.
yeah, at the time though, when we lived with them up in Chicago, I didn't get anything, but just so happened when we left the community and she left the community, we were in the same town at one point, and I met up with her at where she lived at her house, and she did the parable of the 10 virgins. It's a woodcut on my upper arm, on my left upper arm. So I found this image in a book that my mom had, and I just loved it. I loved woodcut prints. I love printing, printmaking. And so when I found this parable depiction, it was just so beautiful to me. And you mainly see the 5 virgins, and they're not like, they don't look like they're from like BCE. They look like they're from like the 50s. They have like black kind of like dresses on that kind of poof out at the bottom. Like they're very, it's like the parable of the 10 virgins happened at a different time period kind of
Yeah, like a
thing.
modern depiction of it.
Yeah. And even their hair and everything kind of reminds me of like they were in the 40s, but they're each holding a lantern, of course. And then you can kind of see in the background the 5 virgins. They're just little silhouettes of women running back to get their
Mm.
oil that's also in it. And it's black only. It's just black work, which a lot of my stuff is black work. So yeah, she did a good job for having done it in a house. But I do look back on it and wish I'd done a couple of things differently because it has bled in some areas. And so, but you could still tell what it is. And it's definitely one of those early tattoos where you're like, I'm just trying to get a good deal. And you can
Yeah.
tell you got a good deal kind of thing. But yeah, another person I knew. So that was always the experience. I remember sitting in her house and the people we were hanging out with, we were eating food, drinking, just like hanging out, and the whole experience was really positive and something that a fond memory that I look back on. Yeah, then I got the third one was or fourth one, I can't remember. Yeah, fourth one was my family crest. So a lot of what I got after this is all stuff that I designed. I pretty much got to a point where I was like, I think I just want to do my own artwork on my body for the rest of my tattoos. And so what I would do is I drew it up and then I would give it to the tattoo artist, and they would kind of like balance it out as far as like if anything was uneven or whatever, and they would kind of redraw it for me and then tattoo it on me. So in Portland, when we used to live there, there was a female artist at a shop that I had heard really good things about, and she did my chest piece. So this is my family crest is on my chest, and it literally covers my entire chest, like down onto my breasts and into all the way to the edge of my armpits. And it's a very simple design, but in the center, it has 2 pieces of wheat that are growing around 5 arrows. And the 5 arrows, of course, represent my children. The 2 pieces of wheat represent my husband and myself, which you have to die, right? To regrow, right? And that's the scripture that talks about the wheat that falls to the ground on fertile soil. And then of course my babies were the arrows. And then there's a sun and the moon on it as well, that just for me at the time was just representative of this is all the time, every day, every night. I don't stop being who I am, and these people don't stop being a part of my life, in my heart and in my mind. This is my life, and the rest is a lot of design line work. So that was
Also, I
actually
want to comment on this one. I didn't know you had all the other stuff. I was aware of the arrows, and I think like, aren't they in like a circle kind of?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's what I saw of it at retreat, and I
Mm.
loved it. Like, I didn't realize it was that big. So that's
Mm.
really cool. But I like genuinely so much loved what was peeking out, like what I could see of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks. So it has a lot of swirls on the exterior design work, and so I have a couple of swirls right on my boobies, and then I have a couple of swirls right on my arm, like near my armpits. And so I kind of took that swirl look to my other tattoos as well. So that's kind of where it started. When I say swirl look, I think you can kind of sort of imagine what I mean, just swirls.
Yeah.
But so then I went to a design on my shoulder, and this is when I involved my old friend Josh, who was with my husband when I met them together. When I first met my husband, I met Josh too. Um, and they were both like just grungy punks, is what they were, and they were so stinking cute, and they still are both so cute to me. But Josh is an old friend of ours, somebody that we still see and connect with regularly. And so I designed up the shoulder piece that goes from kind of like the bottom of my neck all the way down to meet the Parable of the 10 Virgins tattoo. So it kind of connected from my neck down my arm. And it's kind of like an Egyptian sort of motif or design. I wouldn't, that has like a big flower that fans out over my shoulder. And then, but it's very designy. It's not like a real depiction of a flower. It's like what you'd expect from like an ancient Egyptian hieroglyph or something,
I
you know,
remember
but,
that one. I think you had just recently gotten that before you came to retreat. So I was
oh,
asking
okay.
you about it, and I mean, I don't
Okay.
know how recent, but it was like definitely that fresh look, like probably within the first 6
Sure.
months or so.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I took an old like design element, and then I added onto it, and I put leaves and more swirls, and I have a bee at the bottom of my neck where it starts, because my kids would call me Queen Bee sometimes. And yeah, it's one of my favorite pieces because it's I don't know, it just turned out really, really well, and Josh did an amazing job. And it is black work with a little bit of color, except for the flower, which has is filled with color. So I guess it's not really black work, but it's black work and color work mixed together. There is a cross in it.
Oh,
You
really?
but it's not really, it looks like it's just part of the design. The long stem that goes from north to south is elongated. It's pretty elongated, and you can't really tell that it's a cross. It's more just like kind of blends in, but I did intentionally put it in there. Because of obviously my faith plays a big part in my life, and I was putting crosses all over my body.
Right.
um so yeah, but I had another friend that gosh, this is a hard subject to talk about. I had a best friend for many, many years, and 20 plus years, and we got a tattoo together. It's the only tattoo besides my wedding tattoo that I've gotten with someone else. And I still love this person so much, and think about them every day, really. When somebody's a part of your life for that long, it's impossible to move on without them being a part of your life, in some way, shape, or form, even if it's just things that remind you of them or whatever. And so yeah, we got this tattoo together, and mine was like on the inside of my upper arm, and it's one I designed, and I won't talk about the details of it, but I kept it for a long time, and I think I got to a point where I knew that it was time to cover it up, like I felt like in a way like I needed to do it. So I designed up a hawk. I'd found a art piece that I really, really liked, and then I redrew it in a way that I wanted. So I was inspired by another piece, but that was just an art piece. It wasn't a tattoo or anything. And then redesigned it, gave it to my friend Josh. Josh did a really good job. And where the head is, kind of lands almost to where the crook in my elbow is. I intentionally put it there because I had this idea that I wanted to do a rainbow over his head. It's just the lines of a rainbow. That's this curvature, but just black work. This is my most recent tattoo, and it goes down onto my forearm. And it's really just design work. It's aesthetic, and it's a lot of elements of it are things that I work into my own personal artwork. So it definitely reminds me of stuff that I do, and what comes out of me when I naturally do artwork. But I worked on that one so long, put a lot of effort and time. And I usually would think about them for months, if not years, before I actually got them. I really was very intentional about my pieces and wanted them to hold a place in my heart that made sense to me, and were not just a design, but something that felt like an extension of me. And so yeah, with all those pieces put together, I intentionally put all those pieces together over time. Over the last 20 years, I have built this 3/4 sleeve, and a chest piece. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't even know if I have any desire at this point.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah, I was going to ask you the same thing. Like, I think after getting tattoos for so long, like, and then my husband's arms are covered, he's got leg work, and so yeah, we both have gotten tattoos for so long. A part of this is like, okay, we've done that,
right?
Moving on, don't want to spend money on it anymore.
Oh my gosh, it's so expensive.
Yeah. And then another part of me is like, well, it'd be super fun to get just like one more,
Yeah, it's always
so I thought
one
about
more.
maybe getting one when I turn 50, like,
oh, nice.
Like just like kind of like my last hurrah,
Yeah.
This is my final piece, kind of like putting that kind of energy into it,
Yeah.
What about you?
Well, like I said, there's always something I would want.
Yeah.
I don't have anything like super specific or solid right now. I mean, I've got lots of ideas. I have a whole folder in Instagram that I just save tattoo ideas to.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, and I don't necessarily search for them. I just follow tattoo artists, and when I see a design that I'm like, oh, damn, that's so cool, I'll just save it. And there might not be like all of it that I like. It might just be like one aspect of it that I really love. Yeah. So anyway, I always want more. I would kind of love to finish the sleeve on my left arm just for the sake of finishing it. I mean, it doesn't have to be like, it still looks amazing just as is, but I would kind of like to maybe even go back to the same artist and have her just do a continuation. And I think I would probably be, actually, I kind of lied a little bit now that I think about this. There are some very specific aspects of my floral tattoo that have significance to me. So I'll share that right now because I forgot. So she drew up the whole thing. I told her what I wanted, gave her like some pictures of ideas like to, kind of be inspired by. And she drew it up. And then she's like, okay, is there anything you want me to change? The day of when I went into the studio, she's like, what do you want me to change? Do you want me to add? What would you like? And then she even left some space for that, which I thought was like very smart. She's probably done this a ton of times where people come in and are like, oh, I want to do this specifically. So what I did specifically to like my idea was I added a daisy into it. Just because it's a cute flower. I like it. And I felt like it kind of represents like the hippiness in me. And it's funny, I actually had a pair of jeans when I was like 13, 14 maybe, that they were blue, like blue jeans, but then they were like, it was just blue and white, the whole pair of jeans, but there were daisies all over it. And those were one of my favorite pair of pants. I still think about those to this day. It's just such a stupid thing, but like I love those things.
That's awesome.
And so like the daisy is kind of for that. And then I also got a little bunch of forget-me-nots in it because I would go out and play in my grandma's yard when I was little. Like I would have a half day of kindergarten and then the other half I would to her house. I'd just outside like climbing trees and things like that. And I love the little forget-me-nots. And so I would always pick them and I'd bring them in and she'd put like a wet paper towel on the bottom and wrap it in foil, so I could take it home. And Yeah, so like that was significant to me, and she had passed away not too long before I got that tattoo, and so like just kind of wanted to memorialize her and my memories of time at her house. So those were the specific things that I wanted in that. But anyway, all that to say, what I was gonna say before that was I think I would like that same artist to just go up the arm, but then maybe I would be more intentional about specific things I chose rather than it being like more her design.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because like I'm like you know, like you're an artist, you're creative, you have ideas. Kind of why am I paying somebody else to come up with the ideas? You know, like they can do the work.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I can't tattoo myself, or I don't want to.
Right.
But yeah, I think I would be more intentional about the content of it going up the
Mm.
arm. But yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, it's probably a story for another podcast. But I've had like some visions about things and visions in like a breathwork setting, like a breathwork class, and it does put you in like a meditative, dreamlike state, and so that's what I call the vision. It's kind of like a dream that I would like to kind of memorialize on my body somewhere, but it hasn't come to fruition, the design, so I'm not quite sure what that would look like. But
Mm.
yeah, I mean, that will probably change someday. I'll be like, no, I've had enough. You know, like I don't want any more. It's enough, but I always want more.
Yeah.
Like it's a fun journey, and honestly, I was going to ask you, Anna, too. Did you sense at a certain point in your tattoo journey that you started to intentionally lean away from specific iconography or anything related to Christianity? Because I have some thoughts on that on my journey as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, my last tattoo before I deconstructed was my shoulder piece, and there was no symbol. I mean, there was one symbol, like I told you, like the little cross in the middle. But other than that, it was still predominantly my own personal design, and it wasn't necessarily Christian influence at all. And that to me was like you could tell I was pulling away from overtly putting symbolism on my body. Um, and then yeah, every tattoo I've gotten since then has just been just me, just my
Yeah.
designs, and that don't have any spiritual necessarily overtly Christian, I should say,
Right.
symbolism. So yeah,
Yeah.
what about you?
So obviously, what I described, like, there's no symbols in there, no Christian symbols, apart from if you knew what the branch of myrrh actually was on my tattoo and what it represented within Christianity. I mean, that could have just been a random branch. Um, but it's interesting to me because when I got that, it was 2014, and I didn't start deconstructing actively, like knowingly deconstructing until probably 2021. But I think in 18, when we came back, 2018, is when that process kind of started, unbeknownst to me.
Mhm.
Um, that's when I can pinpoint when I actually see, looking back, oh, that's when stuff kind of started to unravel, and I just kept going forward, trying to make sense of it in whatever way I could. And we
Right.
just come back to the country. You know, there were a lot of factors at play that I
Mhm.
could have attributed this feeling weird about faith to. But yeah, so I'm glad actually that I don't have any crosses or overtly Christian things.
Mhm.
Obviously, the first two were specifically related to spiritual things. Um,
Mhm.
but I am very thankful. But it makes me wonder too that, like, did something in my psyche know? Did something know that there was shifting happening? You know, like in the subconscious, and so I didn't gravitate toward those very specific Christian symbols. I don't know. It'd
Mhm.
be, I mean, that's kind of a psychological experiment, I guess, to think about that. But um, yeah, I have thought many times, so thankful. I don't have crosses. I don't have three
Mhm.
crosses somewhere or whatever, you know?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I think my symbolism has always been really small, except for the parable of the 10 virgins, which, a lot of people look at and they don't notice it is a parable from the Bible when they see it.
Yeah.
And when people ask, sometimes I just want to say, none of your business.
Yeah.
So- but, I usually do just say it's the parable of the virgins from the Bible.
Yeah.
And still to this day, I just have to navigate those kind of conversations from a completely different perspective. And I don't want to open that can of worms with like complete strangers. So I usually just go with it and just let people think whatever they want to think and move on. But anyway,
Well, this
this
was
has been fun. Yeah,
Agreed.
tattoos are a big part of our life.
They really are.
Interesting to recap. I don't think about a lot of this stuff every day. So it was kind of like going on a journey for myself as well to remember what it is that I did. And it's been fond memories, even with the history being a roller coaster. It's been still beautiful and good. And when I look back on my tattoos, even though some of them don't look awesome anymore, or maybe have some symbolism that I don't necessarily relate to anymore, like I still connect with my story.
Yeah. Well, I like that it really paints a picture. It's a snapshot of your thought process in that moment of time.
Mm-hmm.
If it was indeed like it had some deeper meaning, if it's just some design that you came up with, I mean, yeah, that's also a snapshot of where you were at in your artistic career and how you were expressing yourself in that moment of time. But it's all significant. And even if I had Christian symbolism on me somewhere, I don't, depending on what it was and where it would be, I don't know that I would cover it up, because that is representative of a lot of my life. So yeah, it is interesting to look back and kind of draw some connection between this dot and that dot that you maybe hadn't before. Because when are you ever just doing an overview of your ink?
Right.
Never.
Right.
Never.
Right. Right.
So yeah, it's interesting. I was actually thinking too that it would be funny if we came up with all the stupid things people have said to us about tattoos, because holy moly, like I've got a list. I'm sure you do too. Yeah. But anyway, no, this is fun. It was a good, easy, light topic for us to share, and whether our listeners care or not, I don't know, but it was fun for us. So thanks for listening. If you've gotten this far,
pushing
for
record
sure.
anyway.
Exactly. Well, I don't have anything else to say. Do you?
I'm good, girl.
All right, cool. We'll wrap it up. Thanks for listening as always. We love you guys.
Peace out,
motherfuckers.
Motherfuckers.
That should be our next tattoo. Hey, if you made it this far, damn, you're a rock star. Thank you so much for listening to us, and let us know who you are. We want to hear from your sweet little face. Check back in for the next episode to experience more hippie nonsense, talk more heresy, and share more laughs.